Have you ever found yourself stuck dealing with a narcissist, or better said, a jerk? The kind of people who point out the smallest flaw in you, while they themselves have the same flaw 10 times worse. These people are the exact definition of blind to themselves, sharp-eyed toward others. They get on your nerves so much that staying calm and avoiding getting dragged into an argument, verbal or even physical, becomes almost impossible. The problem is, logical discussion with these people is completely useless. They've consciously chosen a path where they don't want to see reality. Any attempt to convince them only drains your energy and leads nowhere. This text is actually part of the summary of the famous book, Assholes, by Dr. Xavier Crement. Here, we're going to go over a few practical, clever strategies to learn how to put these people in their place and shut them up. Now let's take a trip to ancient Greece. By a clear river, we see a young man named Narcissus, so beautiful you can't take your eyes off him. But the tragedy begins when Narcissus himself becomes captivated by his own beauty. When he sees his reflection in the water, he believes he has found a flawless lover. He becomes so obsessed with this impossible love that he sits by the river for hours and even days, until he finally dies of hunger and exhaustion and drowns in the water. Today, this myth has become the symbol of narcissistic personality disorder. Freud believed that many narcissistic traits are innate, but over time, especially in childhood and under the influence of family, these traits usually soften. Still, we should remember that a little narcissism isn't necessarily bad. Valuing yourself and refusing to sacrifice everything just to please others is actually a sign of mental health. In fact, a 2019 study at Queen's University Belfast showed that a mild level of narcissism can reduce stress and depression. But the problem starts when narcissism becomes a very wide spectrum. From that annoying relative who just ruins your mood, all the way to people who, out of extreme narcissism, are willing to risk others' lives just to prove themselves. That's when the alarm bells should ring. So how should we deal with these kinds of people? If you try to make them understand that their behavior is wrong, you won't get anywhere. As their name suggests, they're in love with themselves and never accept your criticism. Xavier Crement has a golden sentence that sums it up. Assholes can crush others, but no one can crush them except a bigger asshole. But since we don't want to lower ourselves to their level just to deal with them, our first and strongest shield against a narcissist is not changing them. It's building a fortress around our own peace. The walls of this fortress are the smart distance you create. Reduce your contact with them as much as possible so it doesn't lead to arguments. They use every opportunity to bring up what? Their unbelievable success stories, their amazing looks, or their love life, which they imagine is on the level of Layla and Majnun. Crement says something interesting about the love life of these people. If fall in love, it's for one reason. Because they don't want to fall behind in anything, not even love. With that explained, it should be clear why you should never get into a romantic relationship with a narcissist. Remember, you are not their goal. Love is just a tool for showing off and proving their superiority. Now, if for any reason you're forced to stay in contact with these people and want to stop their endless talking, There are two very effective and practical strategies. Let's start with the first strategy. Challenge their ideals. Narcissistic people exaggerate their achievements far beyond what they actually are. Be aware that this grandiosity is different from normal pride. It's a completely unrealistic image they have of themselves. So how do we deal with this self-aggrandizement? The solution isn't fighting or arguing. Instead of rejecting their claims directly, be smart. Compare them with people whose success is real and undeniable. Or, if you have an achievement that's truly stronger, present it calmly and confidently. This isn't a debate. It's a strategy to shut down their exaggeration engine. When you see them trying to escape the situation by changing the subject or talking nonsense, know that you've hit the target. That's the moment you've won. You don't need to continue. A calm smile and silence are enough for them to realize you see through what they're doing. You can even say, "I think we've drifted from the main point." That one line hits harder than 1,000 insults. Now let's move on to the second strategy. Show them they're not special. One of the main traits of narcissists is that they see themselves as extremely special, even genetically superior. For example, if you go shopping together, the outfit they bought is suddenly the best in the world. Why? Because they bought it. Their mindset is such that they refuse to see reality. They live in the delusion that everyone envies them, and any criticism to them means jealousy, not concern. So here's the strategy. You need to make them realize they're not special and break that illusion that they've fallen from the sky. They need to understand that there are countless people just like them in the world. As Xavier Crement says, one of the main traits of the narcissistic asshole is that he sees himself so chosen by God that he even sees halos of light around his head. But now the question is, how do we know if the person we're dealing with is truly a narcissist? If you see these 6 traits in someone, don't argue, don't lecture, just distance yourself. That person is a full-blown narcissist. These are the real red flags. 1. A professional exploiter. They use people to the very last drop and treat them as stepping stones for their own progress. 2. One-sided humor. They joke about everyone, but can't tolerate even the smallest joke about themselves. They get upset immediately. 3. Extreme self-centeredness. A tiny scratch on their finger is more important to them than the destruction of your entire life. 4. A sick love for power. They crave money, status, respect, and authority, but only for themselves, never for anyone else. 5. Seeing people as tools. They view others purely as instruments to achieve their goals, not as human beings. 6. Constant denial of mistakes. They genuinely believe they never make mistakes. Whenever something goes wrong, the world, fate, or others are to blame, never themselves. Now think about how many people around you have these traits. If you've had experiences dealing with these kinds of people, share them in the comments. Tell us how you handled them or how you got away from them. And if you have a friend who's becoming narcissistic, or you feel they're drifting into this dangerous zone, send them this video. Maybe this small nudge can help them. If you want to know how to move on from someone who still lingers in your mind, I strongly recommend watching the next episode. Remember, you're not just watching a video. You're becoming the person you were always meant to be. So I'll see you in the next video, my friend.